Everything is going extremely well.
And now, showtime.
Oh, there we go. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. Today, we're going to be covering, honestly, the best way to be scaling your meta ads and things that you need to be thinking about. And really, it comes down to two simple, dumb metrics. Like, this is the dead easy way to be scaling. And for what it's worth, yes, if you see the ticker on the bottom, the MBA waitlist is starting right now, and I'd love to see you in there. We have a couple hundred folks in the waitlist, and I'm sending offers to the best people. And if you want to get in on it, let me know. That all being said, we're going to dive in today to the dead easiest way to scale your account that quite literally and unfortunately nobody else is talking about, which is just criminal. So that being said, we're just, as we like to do, just dive right on into it. And if you're watching the show today, let me know where you're at. Drop your, location into the chat. Make sure to share this stuff. And I just want to say, by the way, thank you to everybody for just the blowing up of the channel. We dropped a video this week on how to create UGC ads with AI and do the entire marketing funnel from absolute zero. And wow, the channel grew by like 8% in 48 hours, which is crazy. So to everybody, thank you so much for that. Like, it was insane. With all that being said, we're getting into this today because of two things. First, we are seeing so many brands struggle. I was just on a call with somebody where we are trying to figure out what the problem is, and we are focusing on coming up with a high price bundle to try to incentivize individuals to want to spend more. And we have to remember that in times like these, economic insecurity times, when you move up market, you are moving into less price conscious consumers, and the ability for you to charge more and to make more profit goes up. And that's also, folks, where if you deliver on the promise of the brand, the loyalty of that customer to your business is also very high. So these are things that we need to be focusing on. Now, outside of the raise your AOV conversation, today, what I'm going to show you, stupid dead easy, and a way to scale your business. Now, this is, again, a ridiculously surface level preview of the first two lessons of the 12 weeks of the MBA program. And without all the other data, this is a great way to really dive into optimization and simplification, which is the second course of the program. I'm going to show you what you need to be doing to be making more money. And I've left this little thing you can see in Canva. Now, in order for us to get the data that we actually need for this, we have to understand what we're trying to do. Now, you're going to get some folks that say, oh, just raise AOV, or some folks that are going to say, well, you have to reduce CPA and just, use cost caps and all that other stuff. And we have to remember that none of that actually gets the job done. ROAS isn't what pays the bills. Remember that return on ad spend itself is kind of a nonsense number, right? Like a 2x ROAS on $1 is $1 profit. You spend $1 at a 2x ROAS, you make $1 profit. If you get a 1.1 ROAS on $100, you're making 10 times as much as if you had a 2x. The idea of a break even or any other number is a complete misnomer, because it also doesn't account for the fact that you're having some customers buy again. And so before we get into all of this stuff, one of the biggest lessons that I want to teach you right away that came off the call of the brand that I'm working with right now in the Disruptor, the Disruptor Agency and our brand accelerator program, is that there are always people that are willing to pay more than what you're charging right now for a better price bundle. If you can overcome the objection of value, there are always more people that you can sell to at a higher price. If you were to, in this case, take a bundle from $250, take an offer from $250 and try to make it a $400 offer, if you can raise the AOV by 150, you also have to be mindful of the CPA. If you do that, but the CPA raises too much, then you would rather sell more at the 250 than at the 400 because of the unit value that's going on. Now, if we were to say CPA and COGS on the $250 item is 200 and we sell it for 250, so every time we make a sale, we're making $50 gross profit per transaction. That's great. Now we have to understand that if we were to raise that price to 500, we would need to make that sale and have all of the COGS and the CPA combined be less than 400 bucks. Otherwise, it would be more effective for us to sell the 250 offer twice than to get one person to buy the 500. And this is why you can't just look at AOV. And CPA is a complete misnomer because CPA doesn't take AOV into account at all. And every one of the offers that you're running have a different second purchase rate, which is something that we are seeing brands criminally ignore. And one of the reasons that this really matters is it is not just about how well you can sell a product. That is not actually a healthy business. Being a good salesperson, having a high revenue number doesn't mean anything. And it's great to look at second purchase rate. It's phenomenal to take a look at a business and see what item gets people to buy more than once. As you are scaling, and in this case, this brand has come to the Disruptor Agency, and we are taking them from New Zealand and Australia to America and breaking into new markets. Second purchase rate is strong, but when we look at the repeat buyers, if they're spending less money, if the percentage of revenue from new customers to returning customers is less, then that's an issue. And why this really matters is the way you solve the problem of my existing customer revenue is a smaller and smaller percentage of my overall revenue. You solve that in two ways. Either A, you get less new customers, so every day has a higher volume of profit to it because you're investing less in the acquisition of new cash flow cycles and you're getting more and more revenue from people who are buying again and again. That's just a larger percentage of your revenue pool. Or you get the people who do buy to pay more. And in this case, what might very well be true is this business still has people coming back and buying it over and over again. But instead of spending 100, maybe they're only spending 70. We saw the AOV drop on the recurring customers. And so it means that people are buying from this brand over and over again, but during these times of financial difficulty, because the leadership in the United States has decided to tank the economy, we are seeing an issue where your repeat purchase rate might stay high. Your second purchase rate might stay high, but the AOV of those transactions is taking a hit. So the ratios look good. Your rates look good, but the actual gross profit per transaction isn't there. And we really have to start focusing on what is going on in our business. And when we're spending money to make money, because one of the points that was brought up on the call is, well, what if we just pull back budget? Well, if we pull back budget, we're not making enough revenue. You might get a much greater profit margin, but if the profit volume isn't enough to pay your bills, who cares what the profit margin is, right? 10x on $100 isn't going to pay everybody's salary. So you have to start really looking at the fundamental numbers in the business. Now, it's very hard for us to do that when we're looking exclusively at just the ad account, but there are things inside of the ad account we can look at. Remember that it's totally possible to understand whether or not somebody's a new customer or returning customer. You should have new customer as a column inside your dashboard. And we've done videos on this channel to show you how to do that. And if you don't want to go the route of Zapier or Make, you could absolutely, if you're on Shopify, I 100% recommend that you use a tool called Aimers. It's the single best conversions API solution on the face of the on the face of the planet. You can go to disruptorschool.com/Aimers for a direct link. It's AIMERCE. What Aimers does that nobody else does, they actually track the actions people take on your site because they're engaging with software, and that software is Shopify. They're not relying on tag management. The woman who designed it is just built a better mousetrap than every dude that's built any tag management software that I've ever seen in my life. And I've been in the game for well over a decade. So you need to have that. You need to have that number. And that allows you in your dashboards and your reporting to understand the CPA and AOV of new customers versus the CPA and AOV of return customers on your marketing platforms and across your business as a whole. Now, why this really matters and the actionability of the data is you can begin to see where those numbers are slipping. And that's where we, taking a look at this business, have noticed that the returning customer AOV has dropped by 30%. The volume of transactions hasn't dropped. In fact, it's gone up. The volume of transactions has more or less continued to grow in relation to the new customers that we have. Like there's, not every new customer buys again, but there's a cash flow cadence that's been fairly well mapped out. But if you aren't looking at these numbers, you don't really have any idea what's going on in the business. And if you're trying to scale your brand by focusing on getting the lowest CPA and cost capping your way through attribution to try to make something work, or launch 1,000 ads to attract 1 million different types of customers to buy a dozen different types of offers, you're doing everything possible to make solving your problems as hard as possible. So instead, when we're talking about the best way to scale your ads, the thing that actually works in 2025, because it actually works regardless of the year, is to begin to understand these numbers. Now, again, percentage of sales that come from new customer versus returning customer. The CPA and AOV of both of those types of customers gives you the gross profit per transaction of those two different types of customers. And we understand that some of those sales are going to happen with ads, and some are going to happen organically, and some are going to happen with email, and some are going to happen there's a million different ways they're going to occur. So we need to understand those numbers inside of our platform. And we also need to understand those numbers in our business. In the Meta MBA program, by the way, we do look at these numbers granularly by business objective within your ads account. We also show you how to, without any other software than Google Sheets, do complete incrementality testing to understand when you do something on Facebook, what happens to Google, what happens to Amazon, what happens to email. And if you don't know those numbers, then you functionally have no idea what's going on in your business. And as somebody that has helped get half a dozen businesses to an 8-figure exit or a 9-figure runway in the last 5 years and helped hundreds of brands get to a 7 and 8-figure business size, you need to know these things. And if you're a marketer trying to grow a business or be a value asset to a brand or run a brand yourself, these things are infinitely more important than the next ad you launch. Because the next ad you launch has like a 1% impact on your revenue today. Maybe it has a 10% impact on your revenue today. I doubt it. Understanding these numbers can have a 50 to 70% impact on you 4 or 5xing your business. The amount of growth that you're happy with when doing constant creative testing per year can be what you see per month when you're trying to focus on bigger things. And one of the biggest things that nobody's talking about that we really need to focus on before we get into the real numbers today in this little grid that's on the screen, because it's quite literally as simple as this little quadrant. What we need to understand is, because the leadership of the United States has decided to tank the economy, success can absolutely be seen as everyone else is drowning, our head is still above water. And in fact, if you begin to take a look at the growth trajectory for your business as stealing customers from bigger brands who don't care about their customers, you're going to be doing a very good job. One of the best ways to grow a small business is to understand that the reason people buy from direct-to-consumer brands is because they have the opportunity to buy from somebody that has a better offer for them. If there's a product on the shelf in the store, inherently that brand cannot care about their customer nearly as much as you can. Overcoming that lack of concern and care with the customer is the easiest way for you to grow the business. This is what we call conquesting. If you can be a better solution than the big ticket, retail brand, you are going to be able to grow as they pull back. These macroeconomic issues are microeconomic opportunities. And with all that being said, what I want to show you today in this meta ad scaling course is quite simply this little grid. And you're going to begin to look at your ad account with a view to this grid and immediately begin to say the path to success is not launching more and more and more ads. It's removing the complexity so I can have greater consistency and better results. I don't care what other people are saying. The bottom line is the more ads you launch, the more inconsistent and unstable your ad account will be because you have more variables in the equation. I respect that people don't necessarily agree with that, but they're rejecting the way that data science, machine learning, and the scientific method operate because they're trying to outpace the depreciation of data integrity with just more lottery tickets. So with all that being said, let's get into this simple grid, okay? Now, again, this is scratching the surface of what we get into in the MBA program. I would love to see you in the MBA. I see some of you guys going through the wait list, going through the funnel right now. To sign up on the wait list. My phone is going off. Apparently like 9 of you have already done it since this video started, and thank you for all of that. I will go through your applications personally at the end of this, and if I think you're a good fit, I'll move you to the approved side of things, and I'll send you an email for follow-ups. And yes, we are doing discounts for people who pay in full upfront, and we do have payment plans. We have 6 spots left in the 12-person cohort that is starting June 1st. Now, that to be said, this is what you actually need to be worried about. It's very simple. How do you make money? You buy cash for less than it's worth. Now, it seems no-brainer, right? But let's take that a step further. You're going to have some folks that swear cost controls are the way to go. But of course, those folks don't take into account incrementality. And overwhelmingly, when you use cost controls, cost caps, bid caps, things like that, you're going to have a higher unit economic CPM against people who are further down in your funnel. So you're inherently driving less incrementality. You are more likely to have a customer have a purchase conversion event attributed to Facebook and Google and email if you are running cost caps than if not. You're going to get your Facebook ad account to look more desirable, but that CPA isn't true. What we need to do is begin to look at your true CPA, your blended cost per acquisition. And so what I want you to do is, instead of chasing every ad that works and every ad set and every campaign, I want you to start to take a look at, because overwhelmingly the complexity of the ad accounts that I'm seeing is so bad. What I want you to start taking a look at is the actual money that's going on. So we're going to take a look at 2 simple metrics. The first one you already know, which is CPA, cost per sale, cost per acquisition. Right now, that might be app download. That might be cost per lead. That might be cost per purchase, cost per subscription, whatever it is. Now, every ad has an attributed level of that. And we know that ads that have a higher frequency and a higher CPM are probably going to have a better CPA, but also that CPA is artificially suppressed because those users are more likely to also have attribution to other platforms. So that sale is less purely a Facebook sale and more a sale that is occurring across multiple platforms. So your blended CPA is less positively impacted by those ads. And a 4PI analysis can let us understand if an ad is top of funnel or bottom funnel and the way that Facebook is using it. And remember, even if you're using broad targeting or lookalikes with all sorts of exclusions, some of your ads are retargeting ads, some are prospecting. The easiest way to know is how many people per day are seeing your ad more than once. If your frequency is a 1.3, that means 30% of people are seeing your ad twice. If your frequency is a 1.1, it means 10% of people are seeing your ad twice that day. Every ad is retargeting people. No ad has a frequency of 1.00. It just does not happen. And if you take that frequency and multiply it by your CPM, you're going to ultimately understand your unique CPM. And you can see this as cost per 1,000 account centers. And the point is, the higher those numbers are, the less incremental that spending is. But now we can begin to put into context the CPA numbers. If your CPM is high and your frequency is high, your CPA had better be low. And chasing only low CPAs by making your ads spend only on the best performers, you're going to really shrink up your funnel. But we do need to understand that CPA is a valuable metric, right? So in our little thing here, I'm going to throw CPA on one side of this, okay? We're going to just a little text box, CPA. And again, CPA here is being defined as your cost per purchase, cost per app download, cost per whatever it is that you need, okay? So we're just going to go ahead and throw CPA here. All right, boom. All right, so this is CPA going up. All right, let's get a element. Let's get an arrow. Boom, CPA, and we'll do this. Okay, so this is your y-axis. I don't know why it's being a little bitch right now, but whatever. And boom. Okay, so CPA going up. Actually, no, sorry, CPA going down. We want this because more desirable towards the top. Okay, so CPA, yeah, CPA going. Yeah, anyway, let's get rid of this. So we have CPA on our axis here. Okay, now CPA also needs to be put into context with the actual value of that revenue. Now, you might look at ROAS, but ROAS doesn't really matter because it doesn't really take into account the overall volume of profit that you're making, nor the volume of transactions that you have. And also, we understand that attribution itself is kind of a misnomer. So if we begin to extrapolate valuable data across multiple parts of across a lot of different transactions, one of the things we're going to start to really notice is what matters more. Going back to that example of the brand with a $250 offer, if we can sell that offer for $200, including COGS, then we make $50 per transaction. If we're going to double the AOV to 500, then we need to sell that thing for 400 or less, because otherwise we should just sell two of the thing for 250. Because if we only make, say we make $60 on the sale, if it costs us $440 to sell something for 50, we only make $60 profit. If we could sell two things for 200 to make $50 a pop, the cost to acquire that profit is better. For $400, we could buy two transactions that are worth $50 a piece. Versus the higher AOV offer. For 440, we make 60, but it's not as good. I don't want to spend 440 to make 60 when I can spend 400 to make $100. So really what we need to understand here is the context of our other metric today. And our other metric today that I really want you to understand is what we call GPT, okay? I'm just going to make these simple to read here. All right, so we have CPA and we have GPT. All right, these are just the lines, okay? So CPA and GPT. You now have a grid of everything that you need to go from your ad sets with 50 ads in them and your multiple ad sets within a campaign and a dozen campaigns selling a whole bunch of other products, and you're sitting there struggling to make more money. So you're trying to sell every single product that has a profit of anything, because you're like, well, as long as I can sell anything at a profit, I'm doing well. But I'm here to tell you, like, why are you selling something to make a $10 profit if you could sell something to make a $30 profit? And in the example I've been giving you here of the brand that I was working with today, why would we spend $440 to make a $60 profit if we could spend $200 to make a $50 profit? because at the 200, we could get a higher volume of those transactions. So the context of the gross profit per transaction and the CPA becomes really important. And that's something just criminally nobody's talking about. And it bothers me so much that people say that they are successful in business and they care about you, but they're not talking about the unit economics of business. And if you're not looking at the unit economics of business, if you're not thinking about your advertising and how it impacts your bank account, then ultimately you're just wasting everybody's time. And generally, the people that I see talking about that, and I've interviewed more than a couple of them on this channel, especially last month, we had 2 advertisers that were so hell-bent on just getting the highest volume of transactions, the lowest CPA according to one-day click attribution, where that is purely based around how much credit for everybody else's work can I take, where I can make my advertising look more efficient. But they had no conversation about GPT. They had no conversation about the volume of profit per any transaction. They had no conversation about the incrementality, and they had no conversation about the context of where their ad was sitting in the funnel. So those are very low integrity operations. And you can hire a dozen of those people, and you're always going to be stuck in the same problem. So we need to understand here with these 2 numbers, it is CPA, which we can think of as how much does it cost to acquire the transaction, and GPT, which is how much is this transaction worth. And again, spending $200 to make 50 is more profitable than spending $440 to make 60, because I can get 2 transactions for the 200 where I make $100 profit versus 1 transaction where I only make 60 that cost me 10% more. That math just doesn't make sense. But if we focus on just the cheapest CPA, maybe I can sell an offer for only 150, and that offer gets a 160. I'm only making $10 profit on that one. Then it doesn't even matter. Like, you have to really be able to focus on these things. And we begin to look at the 4PI analysis. If I can sell, you might say, well, if I can sell a $200 offer for $150 or a $150 offer for only $100, well, that's twice as good as the $250 offer for $250. And I would say absolutely. But if the only way you're getting there is with cost controls and super high frequency, high CPM ads, where your unique frequency, your cost per 1,000 account centers reach is astronomical, what you're telling me is I'm getting a really good CPA on the platform that does not translate into growing the pool of customers. And really, I'm just helping the machine take more and more credit for sales that are happening from other channels. And then you get into the busy thing of like, well, I'm not going to deal with that problem. I'm just going to throw in exclusions, which just wildly raises your CPMs and makes sales more difficult. Because why do you not want to talk to people? Why would you? The fact that people are running a strategy built on excluding customers that have been to the website or have engaged with their ads, they want just pure cold traffic. That ad has to close somebody at hello. The likelihood of that being a sustainable path for your business is very low. And so that you eventually just start launching more and more ads, chasing anything that you get lucky early. But you don't want to get lucky early, because ultimately you don't want to chase more and more things. Because if you have 20 or 30 or 50 or 100 different ads that are all attracting different types of people, the number one impact that's going to have is a lower CPA today and a much lower second purchase rate in future cash flow. And you might say, well, look, that's not my problem. I'm running the ads to acquire customers. I would say if you are trying to acquire customers in any way, and the ramification of your strategy ultimately hurts the growth of the business by robbing them of cash flow, you are a danger to the brand. You are the biggest liability in the equation. And you need to start thinking more holistically than that. So if we begin to look at these 2 numbers, understanding that there's context to them. And again, GPT is the gross profit per transaction. That's AOV minus CPA, right? What is each sale worth? And then the CPA is the cost per that sale, but we can analyze and put into context that CPA by evaluating the 4PI analysis and how incremental that advertising effort is. Remember, higher the frequency, the higher the CPM, the higher the unique CPM on a cost per 1,000 account centers reach, the lower the incrementality of that ad, because inherently you're reaching more and more, you're reaching a smaller and smaller group of more and more of the same people more and more often. If you are reaching a group of people that gets smaller, and you're hitting them more and more often, and it gets you more, and it costs you more and more money to reach them, that is inherently the opposite of growth. Performance marketing is the opposite of growth. That's what you have to understand. And I really want to drive that home. But now we can get into action items, okay? If you're looking into your ad account, let's say you've got 15 ads running. Let's say you have 50 ads running. And you begin to look at CPA and GPT. Now, on the very surface level, let's just assume you're in a terrible place with like 7, 8, 9, 10, 100, 20 different campaigns. And each one has 3, 4, 5 different ad sets. Or maybe you've just got 3 campaigns, then they all have one ad set and 75 ads in them. Like some ungodly a volume of ads that completely makes it impossible for you to have any understanding of what's working and what's not working. Like, let's say you're in a terrible place where you, and terrible place, I mean, you've got like 20 ads live in your account and you're spending less than like $30, $40, $50,000 a day. Like if you're spending $4,000 a day and you've got 20, 30 ads live in your account to promote 3 or 4 different offers, like you have no idea why anything's happening. And you can say, well, this ad is selling something at this rate and this ad is selling something over here. But remember, ads don't necessarily sell what they're promoting. And that's why when you look at the AOV of multiple ads, even if they're multiple ads inside the same campaign, the AOV is going to be different. Because the type of attention that you're buying is different. The type of customer that you're attracting is different. The way those people behave after the first sale is different. So the CPA alone doesn't tell the story. That's why you need to look at GPT. So now we can get into how do we go from a situation that is impossible to measure and analyze and optimize, where we've decided to say, it's a complete mess. I have no ability to control anything. So I'm just going to launch more and more ads faster and faster and faster. So it becomes even more difficult for me to have any awareness of what's going on. But I think I can launch new ads fast enough to get lucky and outpace the depreciation. In an economy that is dealing with a recession, where you are more focused on getting better and better and better at new customer acquisition, but not actually focused on cash flow, you have a strategy built around accelerating the death of your business. The way you scale a business is you get more of the customers that bought from you once to buy again. The revenue number, the absolute value of the revenue number from repeat customers should go up every month. That money is what you spend on ads to get more people who are likely to buy more than once. That is how you scale a brand. Getting really good at getting people to buy from you once and never buying again is a very expensive way to ultimately have no value. Because your only way of being successful is having the arbitrage on a single transaction. That won't work, especially in a recession. So if we understand these numbers have a lot of context to them, and if we understand these numbers are very actionable, what can we do? We can begin to take a look at this. Let me get elements here. Let me get some X's. Let's get a red X. Okay, boom. We can say that over here is bad. We have 2 baddies, okay? Boom, boom. The CPA is bad and the GPT is bad. This ad is bad for you. If we begin to take a look at our ads, where is our CPA above average? Where is our GPT below average? If it's in one ad set, if it's multiple ad sets within a campaign, if it's multiple campaigns trying to sell the same thing, or other products, I don't care. The easiest way to make more money is to stop spending on ads where the CPA is above average and the GPT is below. And we can use this in a wildly complicated ad account. And I mean wildly complicated as in like you have more than 3 campaigns, more than 4 campaigns, and you have like a couple dozen ads. Like that is an unacceptable level of complexity. That is an unmanageable problem. That is a situation where you are incapable of extrapolating any scientific insight. That is a very bad situation because inherently there are some places where you're way more effective than others. So we can begin to look at things in comparison against the average. That's a strong place to start. If we begin to take a look at the entire average, okay? This is the average of every ad in that ad set, every ad set in that campaign, or every campaign in your ad account. Spend less where your CPA is above average and your GPT is below, where it costs you more than average to make a sale, and every sale produces a lower than average volume of profit. Right away, when you're dealing with an ad account that is so complex, you cannot lean on machine learning or statistical significance or the scientific method. And again, that's an ad account that's got dozens of ads in it. But if you've got 30 ads in your account, you are incapable of assigning any statistical value to anything. You cannot use machine learning properly. You cannot use the scientific method. You are driving blind. If your ad account is sitting in that situation, simply begin to look at it this way. And this will scale your business. If you begin to just turn off the ads that are your most egregious offenders, the things where the cost per sale is higher than average and the GPT is lower than average, immediately what happens is your cost per transaction goes down, and you should immediately see the volume of transactions go up. If you can actually take a look at your ad account and say, I turned off some of the ads where my CPA was above average, you should directly see incremental lift in the volume of transactions. If you're also turning off the ads where not only is the CPA above average, but the GPT is below, you're going to see your volume of transactions increase and the MER in your business improve. You're making more money per sale on more sales. You've immediately become more profitable. Not by launching more and more ads, trying to play the guessing game in the lotteries, thinking you can outpace science, which is fucking stupid, but by being smarter with how you spend your money. If you begin to say, well, I've got two scenarios. Now, let's say we get a check. Let's do a green check. Let's do this guy. Okay. So we got a green check. It's a little obnoxious, but we'll do that. Okay. If we look at the top right, our upper right quadrant here, this section, that is where our CPA is below average and our GPT is above. Now, the beautiful thing is when you're dealing with an ad account that is so complex, you can't apply scientific reasoning to it. You can't use statistical significance. There's no scientific method, and you inhibited the machine learning from being able to make any really informed decision. You are going to make better choices by removing bad choices. Until you are able to get to the ability to understand the incrementality of each decision, which until you can get there, you can't do anything. But until you get there, the path to simplifying your ad account to make more informed decisions. And any data scientist will tell you this. Any performance marketer will take a look at this and be like, yeah, but my account is X, Y, and Z. If somebody's disagreeing with this, it means they fundamentally don't understand business principles or science. They might get one, but not the other. If you do not understand how machine learning works and you do not understand the business principles of unit economics and scale, then this lesson is perfect for you. And if somebody's trying to sell you on cost controls and all sorts of other efforts that undermine this level of simplicity and understanding how to incrementally improve each transaction and to get more of them, then their focus is not actually one that is going to help your business. So again, if we begin to look at this scenario, removing the ads that are in the lower left, and I'm not saying turn off all of them right away. Turn off the ones that have gotten a significant amount of spend. Maybe turn off the ones that have gotten enough for 4 or 5 sales, right? If your target CPA is $50 and something spent 200 and it has a CPA above average and a GPT below, you can get rid of it potentially. If you turn off an ad that has spent roughly 10% of your budget, you have impacted your bottom line in a significant way. By focusing on the ads that have spent the most, and if you have like 50 ads going, odds are 80% of that budget is in the top like 6 to 10 ads. There's probably 1 or 2 that have spent the majority of the money, and then there's a whole bunch of these other ads that are sitting in some like nether region of some random spot where they spent more than enough to have some data, but not nearly get all of the bulk of the spend. If you begin to look at those, where is the CPA above average and the GPT below? Removing those slowly, like do it with strategy and consistency. Don't make massive changes. Just like they say, don't change your budget by more than 20%. Changing your budget allocation is the actual point here. If you turn off ads that are representative of 50% of your ad spend yesterday, say you spent $1,000 and you find, wow, I've got $600 in ads where my CPA was above average and my GPT was below, and you turn them off, that is a 60% change in your budget, because it's a 60% change in the way that the system is going to use your data. And that's what actually matters. That's what the budget percent changes look like. That is going to throw your ads back into your ad sets back into learning. That is a statistically irresponsible way of managing things. Now, it might be a great way for you to get a good result overnight, and odds are you're going to be in a substantially better financial place temporarily. But you don't know how the system is going to readjust. Maybe some of those ads that the CPA was below average and the GPT was above only look that way because there was other things filling the funnel and gobbling up spend and all sorts of stuff. You don't know how that budget's going to be reallocated. So if you simply begin to make optimization decisions based around the unit economics of each transaction, according to the attribution, whatever it is, where you're comparing every single line item in your investment portfolio against each other, meaning every ad in your ad account, and they all have the same attribution. I don't care how many different offers you're promoting. If the CPA is above average and the GPT is below, begin to remove it. I'm giving you permission to change up to 10% of how your budget is being allocated on a daily basis. And I would look over the last 7 days. So it's not a day-to-day basis, but if over the last 7 days you spent $1,000, do not turn off an ad that spent over 100, because that is too much of a change in the data set. When you make small incremental changes by removing bad choices, you are going to see the incrementality of your efforts, because you are going to immediately notice a lower blended CPA, meaning you're getting a higher volume of transactions. You are scaling your business without spending more. This is what we call scaling efficiency. And this is one of the core tenets of the Meta MBA program. And you need to be focusing on these things. The other side of this is that you're also making each transaction more valuable. So you're getting a higher volume of transactions that are all more profitable. You haven't spent any extra money, but you are making a lot more. Making that move over and over again becomes incredibly healthy. Eventually, you might get yourself to a place where you don't have any ads where the CPA is both above average and the GPT is below average. So you start playing in this nether realm. Then we have the question of, well, what's important to us? Do we want to be more profitable with each dollar we spend? Meaning we're willing to take fewer transactions if our profitability per transaction is higher. Or do we want to focus on volume of transactions? Now, that's a you question. I can't begin to tell you which one is right. But you're going to find yourself in situations where you have this going on and this going on. And vice versa, you're going to find yourself in situations where you have this going on and this going on. Where here, your CPA is still above average, but your GPT is good. And over here, your CPA is below average, but your GPT isn't good. You can begin to make strategic decisions on where you are spending your money. And if you have 30, 40 ads running right now, and I've had this conversation 4 times in the last month, and in the last week, sorry, and dozens of times in the last month, and 90% of these conversations, the brands have been in a fundamentally better space in 72 hours or less. If you begin to just remove bad choices, you don't need to launch another ad. If you have 30, 40 ads running, you probably don't need to launch another ad for a month or 2 months. Easy. Increasing your inactionable data is bad. Increasing uncertainty is bad. I find it very interesting that people say the path is to just launch more ads because you're going to attract different types of people and get everything going. Do you legitimately think that the ad that you've run that was really good was only good against 27 people? If an ad is good, it'll convert thousands. If an ad is bad, it can get lucky dozens of times. The data behind the ad is what powers its success, because that data is the machine knowing who to show that ad to. The greatest ad in the world shown to the wrong person doesn't mean anything. A really shit ad shown to somebody who's ready to buy will convert almost all the time. So we need to begin to understand the impact on the unit economics. If you just look at your ad account in this way, it is extremely difficult for you to not be more profitable. If you were to say right now, I'm not going to launch another ad for the rest of the month. It's May 9th today. If I don't launch another ad for the rest of the month, and all I do is try to go from 50 ads to 8, and all I'm going to do is start to eliminate ads that are egregious offenders here. When you begin to take some of those ads out, maybe go from 50 to 45. And then you go from 45 to like 41. And then 41 to like 36, whatever it happens to be. You're going to have a new average where the CPA is less and the GPT is higher. Like, you're reducing your cost per purchase and increasing the profitability per transaction, not just because the CPA is lower, right? Because some ads have a higher AOV than others. It's completely possible for you to sell an offer for $80 and your AOV on it be one ad has 70, because those people aren't necessarily buying what you're promoting. Because remember, people don't necessarily buy what the ad is, especially if you have multiple offers. And that person might buy that item and add other things to carts. You might have an ad where its AOV is 70 and another ad where the AOV is 105, because it's attracting a different type of customer. And you might notice for everybody, 80% of the people who spend 105 on that offer buy again. Everybody who spends 70 with the business buys 0 more times. Well, now the incremental value of that 105 AOV is exponentially greater. But you're not looking at it right now because you've been taught to value the wrong metrics by people who don't know what they're talking about and don't care about you. And again, this is what the MBA program is all about. Like, if you can begin to think like an investment banker and a CMO to grow your business, be a business growth expert, you will outperform every performance marketer when it comes to the actual scorecard that is the bank account. Because you can only cheat and hack and lie your way to success so long. And when the shit hits the fan, the people who are performance marketers get beat out by the people who actually have any understanding of business. And like the internet, they're undefeated. So I'm trying to bring this home for you to understand that when you get from 50 ads to 35, you're going to continue to find more and more ads that sit in the space, because not only is what you've seen previously some ads there, but because you're reducing the CPA and you're increasing the GPT, and because you're pulling some ads out, the way that this machine decides to spend on different ads changes, because you removed bad choices. So the way it's leveraging good choices is different. That spend share will be different. Your media mix will change. And because you're getting more transactions in the business and more people into your site incrementally, you're probably also getting more revenue from search and Amazon and email. Your definition of success might also change. And so more and more ads are going to fall below the line. If you were so aggressive on day one to go from 50 ads to 30 in 4 or 5 days, you're going to begin to see, well, we got rid of every ad where the CPA was above average and the GPT was below. And a week later, we had more ads, because the way the deck is getting shuffled changes because you've removed choices. So things that are good are going to represent more of the spend, and things that are bad are going to represent less of the spend. And that's also going to change how those things behave. And until you understand how those things behave and you solve this problem by just removing bad choices, you don't even know what problem you're trying to solve with new creative tests. This is why new creative tests is overwhelmingly a bad choice for most people. And I'm not here to say you shouldn't be doing creative testing. My point is, for most people, they've already have a system so fucking complicated, they have no idea what the current ads are doing, much less what any new test is doing, other than really low integrity attribution data that has no actual measurable impact on the incrementality of the business. That's a terrible way to run an account. It is egregiously disrespectful to the business owner. And what I love about this is that it makes moving the needle for your business so easy. If you're spending in 50 or 100 places and you just start removing the worst 5%, you're going to get better. It's very difficult to not improve if you remove waste and bad decisions. If all you do is look at this as saying, I'm just going to make sure the machine has fewer bad choices to make, inherently, it's going to make a higher volume of good choices. And then eventually you might find yourself in a spot where you need to say, well, I want to go after some ads where the CPA is below average, but the GPT is good, or vice versa, because you've gotten to the point where you can actually begin to move the business into more profitability per transaction or more transactions. But the immediate move is just get rid of the ads in the lower left quadrant. Those ads are both bad for volume and bad for profitability. And fun fact, what you're going to find by doing this is most of your cost control efforts get eliminated. Because once you remove the bad choices and once you begin to lean on more sustainable and data integrity based ads, those predictive bidding machines can't run on the same scale anymore. You're basically robbing the ability for the machine to make bad choices. And when you evaluate the CPA against those metrics on the 4PI analysis, you begin to say, wow, most of my cost control efforts only work if they're terribly unincremental. And you might even go out on a limb and be like, you know what, let me turn these things off and see what happens in my overall business. Maybe instead of just turning those ads off, the other thing you could do is begin to shift budget from the bad campaigns to good campaigns. Or God forbid, you're still using ABO, bad ad sets to good ad sets. And by the way, this is another reason why you should never use ABO, because then basically every ad set in an ABO is effectively its own campaign. It's basically its own ad account that's running completely independent of everything else. Just getting rid of that level of bad data and lack of integrity in your operations is going to make all of your employees smarter. And in this case, the analogy is your employees, these are your ads. Making these choices is the easiest way to actually scale your business. This is what the Meta MBA program is all about. It's about understanding the unit economics of marketing and business development, taking you from a performance marketer into a business growth expert. Looking at your investment portfolio, not by vanity metrics, but by the impact on the bottom line. And remember, if you go in and just eliminate the lower left-hand corner, you're going to see your bottom line improve. And if you don't, then you've immediately identified that there's an architectural issue in your ad account. But again, that is a wildly extreme situation that I don't see that often. Just removing bad ads moves the needle in a good way. Odds are at least 30 to 40% of your ad budget is being spent on ads that are in the lower left-hand corner of this quadrant. Simply removing the most egregious offenders is going to make everything better. And there's another reason why. And this is something, again, nobody else is talking about, and there's a whole other course in the MBA program. By the way, there's 12 courses in the MBA program, and it is designed to be a week-by-week process. It's an accelerator over 12 weeks. We work together. We go through one course, and then it ends with a full-on Q&A of you and everybody else in the cohort. And at the end of that 12 weeks, you get dropped into the greater program, and we have calls every other week for life. And during that Q&A, you can just open up your ad account. It's basically free consulting with me every other week to give you homework to move your business forward. That's why we've had so many brands get exits in the business. So many media buyers have gotten to a six-figure income working from a laptop remotely anywhere in the world. It's happening all the time. When you begin to look at things in this way, you begin to get out of the day-to-day nonsense. You begin to focus on moving mountains instead of worrying about the pebbles. And I want to leave you with two really big points. If you notice here, we're looking at only actionable data. We're not looking at CPC because it's not something we can control and it has no relevance. We're not looking at CTR because, again, it's not something we can control and it's not relevant. In fact, I often see high CTRs as being in the ads that are in the lower left-hand side. If you begin to focus on all of the metrics everybody's telling you about that are really important, that aren't business growth metrics, like if you're looking at hook rate and thumb stop rate and first impression rate and other silly things like, I don't know, CTR and CPC, you're going to find so many of those ads in the lower left-hand quadrant here because they're not actually business growth metrics. They are built around a principle of, you've hired me to help run your ads. Here's a way that I can make a report that won't have you fire me today, which is a really shit way of you trying to take advantage of the future that you deserve. The other thing that I want you to get out of this is that business growth is not built around a simple hack. There is no simple system to just immediately make everything better. There's no button to push. But there are sustainable systems of business principles to help you spend your money for greater impact. It is completely possible for anybody to launch an ad and understand what happens to their bank account because that ad gets more or less spend. And if you cannot yet do that, then you have no idea what's happening with your ads. If you are not able to point to your bank account and say, this happened because this ad got spent, then you don't actually know anything that's going on with your ad spend. Your media budget is being run on low integrity, directional, reactive data. And you deserve more than that. And to be fair, that's why I built the Meta MBA. This thing scrolling across the bottom. Wow. My phone is okay. Apparently a lot of you are okay. Great. my leads are blown up. That's what this is really all about. And I'm sharing it for free today because I think everybody deserves it. But if you're spending $500 a day, $2,000 a day or more, and you're still relying on renting the expertise of somebody that doesn't care about you and has never built a business to be the future of the growth of your business, you deserve better. And if you want to be one of the best in the world because you stopped focusing on vanity metrics built around not getting fired today, but actually being able to have a conversation with the finance department around the value of your work based on something that isn't attribution, that's not some, how much did the dreams of a butterfly weigh? A nonsense question like, well, we'll review through this or 7 days. None of that matters. If you can't talk business, then you're not valuable to a business other than just a button masher by somebody that does not fully appreciate what they should be doing with their money. At the end of the day, if you're spending money to grow a business, you need somebody at the wheel that actually gives a damn about your bank account and can point to the value of what they are doing with something other than, here's how much credit for everybody's work I deserve. And if you're not in that place, that's what the MBA program is perfect for. What I've shown you today is a very simple matrix to immediately improve your business. And yes, for most people, if you chase this down, it means you won't launch another ad for weeks. And every week is going to be better than the last. And yes, if you focus on these things, it's going to give you clarity. And yes, we are dealing with a recession, and merely just treading water right now is a win. But if you can begin to focus on this, where you're running ads that the machine actually wants to show to people, because we didn't even get into estimated action rate. We didn't get into how to buy higher quality inventory for a lower price, which is a whole other thing. Like, that's 2 other courses in the MBA program, how to win, how to beat your competition by just having a better relationship with our shared business partner, which is Facebook. If you're not focused on doing that, then you've already lost the game. It's just a matter of time. And the next 4 to, until Trump dies, that timeline is going to be really tough because he's probably not going to leave office until he's dragged out in a coffin. And it's going to be tough sledding. And I want you to be prepared, because it doesn't mean people aren't spending money. It means that the people that aren't good at it are going to go away, which means you have an opportunity. As long as there's Nike and Adidas and Reebok, you as a sneaker seller have unlimited potential, because you can just steal their customers. If you are not yet a 9-figure business, your growth can be completely dependent on taking the business of those who are. There is no limit to your upside. You haven't begun to tap the potential that you have. I see it every single year in the MBA. The most famous example we had in our first year was Under Outfit. They went from $50,000 a month to over $1 million a week in 18 months. They are by no means the first brands that were successful like that, by no means the last. We've had multiple brands get exits. You deserve that in a space where everybody else is struggling. Your clarity and me holding your hand every step of the way is what's going to change your life. And that's what I'm here to do. So anyway, I hope you found this valuable. Thank you so much. We have another great video coming live on the Disruptor Academy channel here very shortly on an entire course for free on how to run automated rules, so that all of these types of things can be done without you actually having to do any of the work. Meaning you could quite literally just hit refresh on the ads manager a couple times a week, and just every single week gets better. And until it doesn't, you don't have to do anything. And that might be weeks or months from now, just by removing bad choices. I promise you. The reason that sounds too easy, the reason that sounds too simple to be true, is because you've been taught by people that don't care about you and don't know what they're talking about to create such a massive mess that your ability to improve is just by undoing the work and the damage that's already done. You can do this. I believe in you. I know you can do it. I'm doing it with people every single day. This simple matrix right here is easily the path to your future. And if this works for you and this makes sense to you, I really hope you're one of the 6 in the remaining slots of my MBA program, because they're going to sell out. And I'm interested in only helping people who are hella motivated in being the best. If that's you, I'll see you soon. All right, everyone. Bye.